Alright guys, welcome back to Days of Darkness and welcome to my review for Evil Dead. This one came out in 2013 and is starring Jane Levy, Shiloh Fernandez, and Lou Taylor Pucci, if I'm pronouncing that right, and was directed by Fede Alvarez. So, before we get into the review, man, I just really have to take a couple minutes and acknowledge 100 fucking reviews. Oh my god, that is like... You know, I started doing this 3 years ago, and I kind of just dove headfirst into it, you know? I mean, if you see the beginning of the channel, you can go back. I didn't even have a fucking name for it. And when I did pick a name, I very quickly changed that name. So it's like I really did just dive headfirst into this. But man, 100 reviews, man. It's been a fucking blast every step of the way. You know, I look back at stuff like Corona Mania, which hopefully I never have to do another one of those again. I look at the ongoing years-long Hellraiser series review. That's... Eventually I will just do a full series review of that shit. But, nonetheless, man, it's just been... You know, I look at those things. I look at all the series reviews that I've done. I've done a lot on this channel already, and we're just getting started, and I hope you guys stick with me for the next 100 reviews, just like you have for the first 100. And yeah, man, just as always, I know I kiss your guys' ass a lot, but you deserve it. Just thank you. But without further ado, we gotta go ahead and talk about the Evil Dead remake, sequel, a little bit of both. We'll get into that here in a second. So if you've been keeping track of my Evil Dead series review, it basically goes like this. I love the first one. I adore it. It's one of my favorite horror films ever. I know I say that about a lot of horror films, but but it's the truth, man. I fucking adore the original Evil Dead. For the longest time, I really championed Evil Dead 2. I said that was my, you know, that was my preferred one because it has the iconic, you know, hand chainsaw and all that shit. And I go back and watch it, and it's a good horror film, you know, but just way too much comedy. Way too much comedic relief for me. I do enjoy the film for what it is. I'm able to watch it, enjoy, you know, Bruce Campbell's performance and all that, but if you're comparing the two of them, the first one takes it for me. A little spoiler when we get to the ranking of these movies. But then we get in the Army of Darkness, and it's... Again, just more of the same comedy shit that just, it gets ramped up even more. Again, that's just a fun cheeseball of a movie. And I do enjoy it for that, you know, for that purpose. But it is a very, very corny film. And to me, I feel like the next two movies in this series are the previous two films. You know what I mean? 2 and 3. I feel like they really dilute the horror of the original Evil Dead. And a big reason why I fucking love the 2013 edition of the Evil Dead franchise is the fact that this film gets right back into the thick of it. And when I say the thick of it, I mean the fucking blood and the guts and just the sheer subject matter of this film. It just takes you right back to that original feeling, while still being its own film, you know? Can you call this a remake? Yes. And can you call this a sequel? Yes. I know Fede Alvarez has come out and said that this is supposed to take place in the original timeline. It's not necessarily a hard remake, which you can tell, given the modern technology and all that shit that's in the movie, but there are elements that do kind of make me feel like it's a tad bit of a remake, just because the stuff with the cabin doesn't really line up to me. Like, how long has Mia's family owned this cabin? And there's just a lot of stuff that doesn't really add up, you know, and it's, you know, it's nitpicky shit. It doesn't ruin the movie for me or anything, but, you know, remake, sequel, who knows? I personally fall into the camp of it being a sequel, but there's definitely, you know, I definitely think this movie wasn't necessarily made with the idea of it being a hard sequel. It's definitely wishy-washy. All I know is that this film fucking rules. I really loved this one. I loved it when it first came out. I remember, you know, we were still in the thick of the horror remake. Well, I mean, we still are, really. But back in those days, it was still really, really, you know, every horror film seemed to be a remake of something. And, you know, everyone was nervous for this one. Everyone was scared it was going to not amount to the original at all. And fucking hell, I personally do not feel that way at all about this movie. Actually, a good friend of the channel, my boy Keandre, this is actually his fucking favorite horror film. And pretty cool this is the 100th review, because he's a good friend of mine and he's been supporting the channel forever. So yeah, random shout out to Keandre. Anyways, another thing that I really enjoy about this film, besides the drastically improved tone, would be the plot. You know, you look at the surface and it's very much so an Evil Dead plot. You know, it's very reminiscent of the original. 20-somethings go to a cabin in the woods. They are unable to leave after an evil spirit is unleashed, and they start getting possessed one by one and fucking killing each other. Very Evil Dead-esque, you know, nothing we haven't seen before. But I really like the motivation for them, first of all, going to the cabin and staying there. It is no longer just a matter of, oh, we're going to have a fun little vacation. They're going there because Mia, who is the main character of the film, is suffering from a heroin addiction, and the whole purpose of them being there is for her to be in an isolated location so she can go through the withdrawal process and really kick the habit as best as possible. And obviously that's going to be a challenge in and of itself, but you know, little did they know there's going to be some much graver challenges ahead. But I love the motivation for them being there. I love how early on where stuff really starts to, you know, not get horrible just yet, but stuff's really starting to kind of hit the fan, and, you know, they're like, well, we can't leave. We have to stay here for Mia. Really, really good. Very tragic reasoning, too, because it's like, you know, all these fuckers are going to die. And it's like they're all staying there for a very noble cause and a very noble purpose. Really, really good element there. And another thing that plot element really does service is the relationship between Mia and her brother David. You know, it's mentioned in the film early on about how when Mia's mom, who was in a psych ward and was very sick, not very bad shape, mentally and physically, and David was not there, you know, and you can tell that has really put a strain on their relationship to where they still care about each other, but she definitely harbors a lot of resentment towards him, and rightfully so to a certain degree. 'Cause that's bullshit, man. Like, that sucks. It's a really suck-ass thing. It's never really mentioned why he wasn't there, at least to the best of my knowledge. I don't know if it was like a work thing or what, but he wasn't there like he should have been. And that's definitely alluded to a lot within the film, and I just really like that, you know, there's a lot of added gravity to these characters. There's a lot of emotional weight with some of these characters. And, you know, yeah, there are some, like David's girlfriend, who aren't the most in-depth people in the world, but I still feel like you can latch on to all of them to a certain extent emotionally and invest in them and their storylines and just how they play off of one another in the early going, to where when Mia does inevitably become possessed by the Kandarian demons and all that shit, there's a lot of weight to it there, you know? There's not just bodies, you know, these are real, I'm not going to say fully fleshed out characters or anything, but there's enough there for you to really feel something once bodies start dropping. And holy fuck, man, bodies start dropping, dude. When the horror kicks off in this, man, it just does not hold back. And the main source behind the horror being so strong in this movie is the Deadites, man. The Deadites are back and better than fucking ever in this one. That was one big critique I had with Evil Dead 2 and really with Army of Darkness, was that the Deadites just did not feel the same. Like, that original Evil Dead, man, they're not only are they just gratuitously violent beings, but they're just, if you're lucky, you die. You know, I mean, they'll kill you eventually, but they set out to just torture mentally, physically, just, you know, and if you're lucky, you die, and you don't, but you'll inevitably come back as a Deadite anyways. So You know, just overall, they're just very mean-spirited beings, and they are even, I'm not going to say more so, because they are different to a certain extent, but just as mean-spirited, just as violent, just as fucking gross. Like, these dudes are fucking savages, man. It all starts off with Mia, you know, getting possessed in the we have that scene in the forest that is very much so reminiscent of the original, and I will leave that where it lies. But she does make her way back to the cabin, and, you know, once that door flies open, man, and fucking you get that sound bite from the original, the one by one we will take you. And, you know, she fucking collapses, and it kicks off, man, and, you know, she starts acting real fucking weird. I mean, she already was acting weird, but turns the shower on to like an insanely hot temperature, like to the point where you can tell that the Deadites are really manipulating shit, because that water gets so hot to the point where it starts fucking boiling her skin, and it starts bubbling and shit. You're like, oh god. But yeah, man, she fucking kills a dog. Like, why do you gotta kill a dog, man? That was one of the things I noticed. It's like, that fucking dog didn't even need to be in this movie. Like, kill people all day, whatever. I don't care about that shit. Once you start killing pooches, man, it you know, that hits me different. But yeah, man, she does kill poor grandpa, and that, you know, really does tip them off to be like, all right, something's fucking up. Like, but the Mia Deadite overall does really steal the show. I mean, she is the main character of the film, and I do really like that change, the fact that, you know, our main character of the movie for a majority of the film is the main villain. And I was like, that is a really bold choice. You know, typically we're just used to, once someone's possessed, they're just fucked. They're completely fucked. There's no coming back. They're just done. And, you know, I go back and forth on if I like that. I do like the tradition of, you know, once someone's dead, they're just dead. But I do like how they handled Mia being resuscitated from that. And, you know, we'll get into all that here in a second. But she's easily the best dead out of the movie. You know, that scene where she fucking, like, just licks the box cutter and splits her tongue in half. And just some awful, brutal shit, you know. And he right after that, when David pulls his girlfriend out of the cellar, and he's just looking at her at his possessed sister, and she's just like, "You want to come down here so I can suck your cock, pretty boy?" Like, all this shit. It's like, oh my god, she's easily the best dead out of the film. Just so fucking morbid and gross and violent, and yeah, of course I like that shit. So she's great. She's not the only one though. The other Deadites really do have some cool moments in this. Most notably, Livia, the nurse character. When she is initially possessed, I believe, because Mia vomits blood all over her and shit. So she goes to the bathroom and she ends up, you know, I love the scene of her walking out of the bathroom and then all of a sudden she just stops. And it's just completely still. And you're like, oh, she's fucked. But she does, you know, end up going back into the bathroom. Eric comes in there and he's, you know, checking on her and shit. And I love the little stuff too. You know, the fact that the light bulb, that the spirits are fucking with the electricity and shit. So like the lights are going in and out, and he's slowly approaching her. And you can just hear this like, just this constant like carving noise. And he eventually, you know, he does like kind of nudge her shoulder, and she turns around and she is just completely just carved her fucking cheek out. Like, it's just gone. You're like, oh my god. But yeah, she starts fucking stabbing the shit out of him, and, you know, that Deadite isn't around for very long, but very impactful shit, and we'll get in the rest of her stuff with Kill of the film. Also, I want to acknowledge the love paid to Evil Dead 2 with Natalie after she gets her hand bitten by Mia, and, you know, she starts to have that the same thing Ash had dealt with in Evil Dead 2 of his hand starting to get possessed and shit. And I love, you know, she looks at the fucking I don't know the term for it. It's that shit that you see people like carving turkeys with. It's not like a chainsaw or anything, but it's just like it's, you know, it's that fucking little blade that's like automatic, and it fucking, you know, carves turkeys and chickens and shit. But she grabs that, and I love Mia poking her head out of the cellar door, like, don't cut it off. Don't cut it off, bitch. Don't cut it off. And she just goes, fuck you, and she fucking just completely... And she takes off way more than just her hand, dude. She went whole hog, man. She cut off, like, above her fucking elbow. Like, she cut the shit out of herself. But, yeah, man, she did it. She cut her fucking arm off. And unfortunately, she waited just a little bit too long. And she does inevitably become a Deadite no matter what. But... just some really great moments with the Deadites and shit, and it's just, you know, this movie does such a good job replicating the original feeling of those villains, while also being willing to kind of play with the rules a little bit, you know? For instance, the Deadites don't necessarily have to be fully dismembered in order to die. We'll get into that with Kill the Film, but I do like the fact that, you know, they play with the rules a little bit, but still, it's not to the point where, like, a simple shotgun blast is gonna kill one of them, like in Army of Darkness or some shit like that. Like, it still takes a fucking lot to kill these fucking things. But besides that, I find the most interesting thing that they changed was the fact that you can be resuscitated, and you can, there is a way to be able to kind of take somebody out of that possessed state. And we see that with David doing that to Mia, and that's by burying them alive. You know, he puts the plastic bag over her head. He's able to, forget how he does it. I think he just ends up tranquilizing her after he has to fucking fight the Eric Deadite. But he does end up getting her in an unconscious state, or as unconscious as a Deadite can be. And he's able to start burying her. He has a plastic bag over her head. So as he starts burying her, the Deadite, just one last ditch effort, decides to revert back to Mia, quote unquote. And, you know, she's saying all this, I can't breathe, David. Like, you gotta get me out of here. What are you doing? You're gonna kill me. And, like you can see, it's because he's been in denial for so long about what's wrong with Mia. And, like, he thinks she's just having a psychotic break. And he's, like, you can tell he's still not 100% sure, but he's, like, he just knows he has to do it. Like, he has to at least try. So he ends up doing it, man. He fucking buries her alive, and it does bring Mia back. Unfortunately, David does end up dying after that because the Eric Deadite isn't quite done with him. I can't remember why he went back into the cabin. I don't know why they didn't just leave. I can't remember off the top of my head. It's been a little while since I've seen the film, since this did take me a while to record. But he does end up going back into the cabin and gets stabbed right in the fucking neck by Eric. So you realize, all right, he's pretty much done. But we do not get a Deadite David because he ends up blowing up the house with him and the Deadite Eric inside. But we are not done yet, man, because that evil spirit that lived within Mia, it has to go somewhere. And we do see that this just complete evil manifestation of Mia does end up taking a physical form of its own, and we get a fucking incredibly scary, awesome, brutal, violent final battle between the two of them. And oh my god, dude, this fucking battle rules. And this chick is just fucking vicious. I don't even know if you can really call it a chick or just this unholy demon from hell, man. She is just out to fucking brutalize Mia. And she gets her licks in for sure, man. Love the moment where Mia's in that little crawl space or whatever you want to call it. She's basically in the wall of this shed, and this fucking thing has a machete, and it just starts stabbing through the fucking through the wall. Catches Mia in the calf, and you just see that blade slice right through her fucking thigh. You're like, oh, god damn. She does end up getting out of there, though. This thing literally lifts a whole Jeep. Like, this little skinny Mia demon just lifts this entire fucking Jeep, and it ends up falling right onto Mia's hand. And Mia's got all this fucking adrenaline pumping through her. Like, her hand's basically severed already. Like, at least half severed. So she just ends up ripping her fucking hand off to get away because the demon slowly starts coming towards her. Also, I gotta pay love to the fact that at one point, Mia does blow this fucking thing's leg off while she's hiding under said Jeep. So the thing's just crawling towards her, and she rips her fucking hand right out of that Jeep, and just absolutely gory, disgusting shit. Just seeing all the tendons pop and snap and the bone, and god, it's fucking disgusting. I love the little detail. It's not a little detail, but it's like raining blood the entire time this whole battle's going on. So they're both just covered in the red stuff. And it does end up concluding with Mia, using the chainsaw, and we will get into that in Kill of the Film. But she does vanquish this Mia demon in one of the best final battles in horror history, if you ask me. I fucking love it. I love everything about that. It's probably my favorite part of the film. Just absolutely fucking brutal shit to cap off this movie. And yeah, man, she does end up walking into the sunset, and we get our Evil Dead title card. I gotta acknowledge the Ash cameo for the after credits scene of him just, looking up into the camera and just being like, groovy. And that really didn't fucking go anywhere. So it was cool to see Bruce Campbell, though. I guess that was supposed to lead into Ash versus Evil Dead, maybe, but I don't know. I don't fucking know, because I think that show came out years after this movie. So, yeah. Overall, man, if you can't already gather, absolutely 100% recommend this fucking movie. It's got everything you could want in a horror film. It's got the blood, it's got the guts, it's got the gore, it's got some brilliant scares, some amazing visceral horror. It's just awesome, man. It's one of the best, if you ask me. It's definitely one of the best of this franchise, for sure. But yeah, man, that'll do it for the review portion of the film, the review portion of the video. But you know what we gotta do now, baby. We gotta get into the blood, the guts, and the gory bitch. The gory bitch? There's a new one. The gory bits. We gotta get into my Kill the Film, man. Fucking cut it. In case you haven't already gathered, Evil Dead is a very, very, very violent movie. One thing I gotta pay love to is obviously there's many crazy, bloody, gory moments in this movie that are just explosively fucking violent, but also the little things, the Olivia Deadite stabbing Eric in the face, and you can see the needle, the syringe that she's stabbing him with, just, it's like going in and out of his fucking like face and his eye, and it's like it's breaking his glasses and just stabbing. Oh fuck, it's like the attention to the little details of that, and you see like him pulling it out, and it just stretches the skin and shit. It's like, god. I previously mentioned Mia getting that slice to the thigh with the machete at the final battle, and there's just constant little violent bits, her getting her skin boiled in the shower, and you can see the skin just popping and creating those blisters and shit. It's like, it's like the little stuff like that at times can be just as impactful as the big hyper-violent shit, of which there's much. We're going to get into all that right now. Big shout out to the opening of this movie, which I didn't even talk about, which is another thing that kind of confuses me with the timeline of this movie. Like, is it a sequel? Is it a remake? I don't know when these people would have been there, but there's a whole other family. There's a daughter and a father and all these other people that are from this, like, very inbred looking people from this, like, church, I guess, and they're trying to alleviate this demon from this woman, and they realize the only way to do that is to fucking kill her. So her dad burns her alive, and, again, just great opening for this movie of, seeing our first Deadite in years, proper Deadite. Really cool stuff, but he does burn her alive and fucking blows her head off to open the movie, which was really good stuff. For worst, most painful death of the film, that's probably gonna go to Eric. Just real slow, man. He gets a lot of shit done to him in this movie. He gets a big ass fucking shard of glass, the same shard that Olivia uses to carve her face up. She does stab him directly in the fucking heart, and after that, David very poorly patches him up, but you can see he is slowly dying from that. Multiple needle stabs to the face, gets multiple shots from a nail gun from the Natalie demon. One of them pinning a needle through his hand to his face, and he has to fucking pull it out of his face, and it's like, oh god. That shit sucks, and he eventually just succumbs to all these wounds and just dies. And we do eventually get Eric Deadite, as I previously mentioned, which is responsible for David's death. David's death is what it is. It's just sad. You know, he gets a stab to the neck, and you're like, fuck, because you're really rooting for that dude. But he does end up biting the dust, but by his own accord, in the most heroic way he possibly can. He blows himself up with the Eric Deadite in order to save Mia. But Mia does have that final battle with the Mia Deadite, and that is going to be my kill of the film, would be the Mia Deadite getting a chainsaw right to the fucking face, dude. I mean, you know, I think she spouts off one more line, and I forget what Mia says to her, but she just takes that fucking chainsaw, and she's holding it up by her remaining hand and just her bloody fucking stump, and just shoves this chainsaw right through her fucking mouth and just saws right up her head. And like you can see, like when she falls to the fucking ground, like the halves of her head are still like blinking and shit. Like, this fucking thing isn't dead. Like, what the fuck? It does end up dying though, and just kind of sinks into the bloody gross fucking grass and shit. And just an amazing fucking kill. I'm really not doing it justice with the description. It's one of those things you really have to seek out for yourself. But watch this whole fucking movie, man. Evil Dead 2013 is a fucking classic. I think it's one of those ones that people are really gonna talk about for years to come. Because, I mean, it's 10 years later now, and we're still fucking talking about it. Or at least I am, because it fucking rolls. But yeah, guys, that'll do it for Evil Dead 2013. And next time on Days of Darkness, we're going to get right into it, man. There's not going to be a filler review. We are going to get right the fuck into Evil Dead Rise, which came out this year. The most recent and final entry thus far of the Evil Dead franchise. I'm sure if they come out with another one in another 10 years, I'll talk about that one. But for now, that is the last stop on the Evil Dead train. It's been a fucking awesome one. I'm really looking forward to talking about that movie. But as far as when that review is going to come up, yeah, I'm not sure, you know, 100 reviews, man. I've done 100 fucking reviews on YouTube. If you're wondering, yeah, you know, there wasn't a review last week, and that's because a lot of stuff is happening in my personal life. Nothing bad, nothing crazy, traumatic, nothing like that. Just the adult life is picking up, you know, man, and it's just a lot of good stuff happening. But as a result of those good things, it makes me very, very busy. So I don't always get to commit the time that I would like to these reviews. As you guys know, I'm not going to half-ass shit. I'm not going to just sit up here and trudge through a fucking review and not put my whole fucking nuts into it. You know, it's just not how I am. And yeah, man, so it might be a little bit before you get that review, week or two. But you can bet your ass it's going to happen. I'm not stopping this train anytime soon. I'm going to ride this motherfucker till the wheels fall off. Let's get to review 200, 300, 1,000. Let's fucking do it, man. I'm all game. I'm here for the long haul, man. But no matter when that review comes out, rest assured you will be seeing me again very, very soon. But until then, guys, as I always say, take care of yourselves. Take care of each other. Thank you for supporting me through 100 bloody, gory, awesome fucking reviews. And yeah, man, keep watching horror. All right, guys. Have a good one. And thank you.